from the hoarding personality. Down here. Take a guess.
The Cancer?
Not Cancer, although that's a good guess. That's a very good guess.
No.
No?
No.
Who's the hoarder? Who wants all the money? Who's the
Oh,
Scrooge?
Taurus.
Taurus. Okay, so Taurus is on the fixed cross.
So where does that show on the chart itself, though? Where's the cardinal cross on the chart?
The cardinal cross are going to be the 4 signs that I tell you. I'm going to tell you the 4 signs for each in a minute, and then you'll be able to see it. But more importantly, where do you have all these planets? Do you have 5 planets in the cardinal, 3 in the mutable, and 2 in the fixed? Then you're more of a cardinal person. That means your energy is more about giving and taking. But it's going to even teach you something even more important in a minute. What's the opposite sign of Taurus? This is super, super important. If sign number 2 is Taurus,
Okay.
what's the opposite sign of Taurus? What rules the 8th house? What's the 8th sign?
Is it Aquarius?
No, count.
Scorpio?
Scorpio. Jesus, even though he was a Leo, which is also on this cross, he represents what? What is Jesus' whole storyline?
Savior?
Yes, the Savior, but what did he do?
Rebirth.
Death, rebirth. Scorpio is the sign of death and rebirth. This is Jesus' cross. And he was a Leo. And the opposite sign of Leo, 5 is 11. You were right now. Aquarius.
You did this cross one time. I'm trying to look for the picture.
Okay, I
You
probably did it in class.
Yeah, you did it
in
in
our class.
like the first class.
Okay. So the fixed cross is Taurus, Scorpio, Leo, Aquarius. The reason that the crosses are so important is that if I know a planet is in a sign, like I know right now Uranus is in Taurus, I can visualize the person's entire chart just knowing where one planet is. It's like immediate. This is the most important thing. When I learned this, I learned astrology. So knowing the 3 crosses is crucial. The fixed cross, the people's energy is more hoarding. They don't give, they take. The mutable are the signs where we tend to give, and we're depleted. We don't take much for ourselves. Thisbe and I are on that cross. So the cardinal is Aries. The opposite sign of what Aries is, 1-7. What's the 7th sign? Libra. And Cancer, which is the 4th sign. What's the 10th sign? Capricorn. So Aries, Libra, Cancer, and Capricorn. Those are the cardinal signs. And then what's left is Gemini, Sagittarius, Virgo, and Pisces. So the energy of the sign tells you, the cardinal, mutable, or fixed cross tells you the energy of the sign. Does that person have a tendency to give and take? Does the person have a tendency to take, or do they have a tendency to give and leave themselves depleted? Every single planet is on one of these crosses. So we add it up. Who has their chart? Okay, that's fine. So tell me what you have Aries in. What sign? Mars, I'm sorry. Mars is in what sign?
MP.
Virgo. Okay, so she's got Virgo here. What about Venus?
Virgo's where? And,
You have to add up
okay.
all of
there's-
your planets
Okay,
and see what sign they're in.
all right.
So if, just an example, let's say that Gemini, Venus in Libra,
Okay.
Mercury in Leo, Sun in Leo, because those are always going to be together, Moon in Cancer, Chiron in Virgo, or Scorpio, Venus we already did in Libra, Pluto, let's say, in Scorpio, Jupiter in Sag, Saturn in Capricorn, Uranus in Pisces, and Neptune in Aries. We're going to add up all of these
Okay.
and see what cross they belong to. That's how you're going to do it in your chart.
But
So let's just
normally,
use the
normally
one-
they supposed to be in that signs. No.
What do you mean?
But like always Mars is going to be with Gemini? No.
No,
Wow.
every person is different.
Is
This is
different,
how
okay.
you find out the personality.
Okay.
So since you guys have your charts, you can do yours. Go to your Aries and find out how many. So this is what? Cardinal, fixed, or mutable?
This is mutable.
This is mutable. Libra, cardinal, fixed, or mutable?
Libra is fixed. No.
Cardinal.
Cardinal.
Leo, cardinal, fixed, or mutable?
Leo is fixed.
Cancer, cardinal, fixed, or
Cardinal.
mutable? Leo,
Fixed.
Scorpio,
Fixed.
Libra,
Libra cardinal.
Scorpio,
Fixed.
Sagittarius,
Mutable.
Capricorn,
Capricorn.
cardinal,
Cardinal. Yeah.
Pisces, and Aries,
Aries is cardinal.
cardinal. So now you're gonna calculate how many cardinal, how many fixed, and how many mutable. And that's gonna tell you the personality. So between the cardinal, fixed, and the mutable, and the how much you have of air, earth, fire, and water, you're gonna know the personality right off the bat.
My Venus, it's hard to tell because it's like right on the line of Gemini and Cancer. But
No, your Venus has to be in one sign. Venus is in Gemini, because it's right there. It already tells you.
Okay.
You don't have to guess.
okay.
Okay. So how many fixed do we have on the board? 1, 2, 3, 4. And cardinal, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this person is very cardinal. And now let's look at the elements: air, fire, water, and earth. How much air do they have? Is Gemini an air sign? Yes. Air, fire, water, air, water, fire. They have no earth, this person. Oh, one earth. Water and fire. So 1, 2, 3, 3 air. 1, 2, 3, 4 fire. 1 earth. And 1 water. 2 waters, 3, 4 waters. So they're fire and water. What does that tell you about their personality? What's fire and water together? Steam.
Steam, yeah.
Steam. This person is steaming. And they have no earth. They need earth. They need grounded. So they're a cardinal fire water. They're very Cancer and very, where's my water? They're very Cancer and Aries. So from these two things, from the cross and the elements, you can already tell about their personality. They're going to be giving, but they're going to be taking, but they're going to be steaming. Their personality is going to fizz. It's like they have an attention span of nothing.
So to find that, you look for the planet here, and then whatever sign they land on.
Exactly. Every planet has a sign. And it's going to be either on the cardinal cross, the fixed cross, or the mutable cross. And the cross that they're on is going to tell you about their personality. So I'm a mutable cross. Pisces is a mutable sign. So is Adriana. But I bet you that Adriana's chart has a lot less mutable than mine does. Because I am a jack of all trades, master of none. I give all of my energy, then I'm always depleted. But she's more earthy, she's more grounded. I have one planet in Earth. So if I'm mutable and I have so much fire and water, because I'm like this person, my energy fizzes. So I stick with something for a very little time. My tendency is to not, it's amazing I've stuck it out with astrology for so long and that I was married for 10 years. It's the longest thing I've ever done. Because the tendency of the person is to be very mutable, to be very changing. Is to give.
I like change though.
No, I don't doubt you like change, but you have a lot of Virgo in your chart.
Yes.
And the other thing that she has, when I first met her and I saw her chart, I was like, oh. I saw right through her. You see her, she's Mama Bear. But she's got a lot of me. Her first chart, her first house, has like 6 planets in it.
Yeah.
So it's the independent individual. She's not a pushover. She's just nice, but she gets her way the way she wants it.
Yeah, she's that reply all.
Exactly. And when she gets something in her, she gets it.
You're a reply all.
Yes, I am.
So it's a very, so you already see. So just by visualizing, when I saw her chart for the first time, I saw all this Virgo. So I know she's, and it's all of it's in her first house. All of it.
It's all squashed in
So it's very much about her. Whereas my chart is splayed. I've got planets all over the place. That's also going to tell you the essence of the person. What kind of person do you think that's splattered all over the place? That jack of all trades master. There isn't a concentration of energy. So everything about me is like it fizzes fast. As I've gotten older, and this chart I was telling you about before, the progress chart, that's when you see your soul's journey. Right now I have like 6 planets in Earth. Now I'm stable. Now I'm sluggish. Now I'm structured. But I was never like that. And my essence isn't like that. My nature. Your nature and your tendency never change. Your behavior changes. But your tendency is your tendency is your tendency. And these things tell you immediately the tendency of the person. And that will never change. So I've grown up. I've progressed. My soul is learning lessons. So I'm changing. But really, the essence of who I am will never change. Your tendency never, ever changes. So if you are a steaming person, you're steaming. If you're mud, you're mud. So you're always going to need to hang out with people with that other element that you're lacking. And the same thing with the cross. If you're a mutable cross, you are fizzy. You're giving. I used to say this saying in Spanish. Yo no tengo nada mío. How do you say that, Bisbee? Like, I had nothing that was my own.
Yeah.
I don't care about material things. I have very little earth and I'm immutable. I'll give you the shirt off my back. I could care less. Because I'm not attached to things. And that's my essence. But tell me that a fixed cross isn't attached. Bullshit. If they have the most planets in the fixed, they're hoarders. They tend to be more selfish. So she's got a lot of Virgo. She's got a lot immutable. A lot of her stuff isn't hers. But she's got a lot of Virgo. She's got a lot of earth. She's got a lot of stability. She's going to be structured. She always says, if I win the lottery, I'm still not moving from my house.
Yep,
She loves her house. She'll be there forever.
I will redecorate, but I don't wanna move.
So even though she's got a lot of mutable, she has so much earth that you start to see the essence of the person. So why are the crosses the most important thing? The crosses are the most important thing is because the moment you know when a planet has entered a sign, you know the person's entire chart. That's for a little later, but it's super, super important. Learning these signs on the crosses are super important. Because that's going to make you an astrologer like this. When I learned that, it was like overnight. I was like, oh my God, I get astrology. It was a game changer for me. But most important for today, what I want you to know is what cross the person is on and what element they have so you can get the personality of the person. That essence is never going to change. Any questions?
The mutable is the give and take.
No, cardinal. Cardinal gives and takes.
The
Mutable
mutable
gives,
only
gives,
gives.
gives.
And fix taste it.
And the fixed take.
So wait,
Now your sign is on a certain cross. My sign happens to be on mutable just like hers. But you, Nellis, you're a Cancer. Your sign is on the cardinal cross, but you're saying you have a lot of mutable.
Yeah, I got 5 mutables and, well, I got 5 cardinals too.
Okay. But one of the things that she was saying in class today is that she loves to give gifts. Every time she comes to class, every time it's someone's birthday, every time she has a lover, she wants to give, 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 give. It makes sense, because now we see that she's a mutable cross. Plus she's a Cancer. So a Cancer mutable, please. She'd, bring down the moon and the stars for people if she could. So it's your essence. That's why we don't judge it. Astrology teaches you exactly who you're supposed to be. That to me was the best lesson. When I understood my chart and said, oh, I'm supposed to be this crazy, wacky, loud, weird woman, it makes you love yourself and self-accept. Because you're exactly who you're supposed to be. That's the beauty, that's the gift of astrology. And just today we were talking about this. And I said to her, and I didn't even know this about her chart. And I'm like, why are you judging it if that's who you are, if that's your nature? And now we see that that's exactly her nature. So it's exactly who you're supposed to be, regardless of your mother telling you that that is not what you're supposed to do.
And
That's the gift of astrology.
I got 1 in fixed. That makes sense.
So,
And even when people try to give me, I'm like, you don't have to give me anything. You don't have to give me anything.
that's how I am. So with no earth, and I think I have 1 fixed, I'm not a taker per se. Now that doesn't mean that being a giver is so good, because then you're ended up depleted. Everything is a balance. It's all a balance. And none of us are in balance. I think I've met 1 person in my life that's had the elements balanced. And like my astrology teacher says, boring. Who wants to be that person? Because then what are you striving for in life? If the whole purpose of life is to find a balance between spirit and matter, to balance yourself out, and you're already so balanced, well, that's kind of boring.
Go, what is it? Skydiving without a parachute. That's it. You're
That
balanced. You can jump
For
off.
someone like that, that might be the highlight of their life.
Yeah.
But they may not need very much stimulation because they're content. And that's okay. Contentment is super important. A word in Sanskrit is santosh, We want santosh, we want to be content, but most of us aren't. And so if our whole life is about finding balance and finding contentment, but we're already at our birth given that, boring, it's gonna be a boring life. At least that's the way I look at it, because I have no balance. So any questions about the crosses, the signs, the elements, the planets, the
So,
houses? This is the crux, crux, crux. Without this, you cannot do astrology. This has to be like this. Then I can teach you every single other thing.
I
Yes?
have a question for mine. So we start here. Doesn't where we start at Aries?
It doesn't matter for the crosses where you're starting. But yes, that's the first house cusp. That's where we're starting. The chart starts in the first house.
Got it.
Yes.
The only question I have for now, is when we talk about what each sign rules, you know, like the organ or part of the body, what does that really mean? Like, what does it mean?
Great
by
question. Perfect. Everything in astrology is whether something is afflicted or planets get along. If something is afflicted, it means that two planets are talking negative to each other. There's two major afflictions. The crosses, you need to know the crosses for this. Squares and oppositions. If two planets are getting along, they're trines or sextiles. How many of you love geometry? I hated geometry. I did not understand geometry. I failed geometry. Astrology is all geometry. I get it because it makes sense. It's something relevant. Okay? All this has to do is with 90 degrees, 180 degrees, 60 degrees, 120 degrees, and 60 degrees. Okay, I'm going to show you now. So 90 degrees, 180 degrees, trines is 120 degrees, and sextiles are 60 degrees. Geometry made easy and fun and relevant. You must know the cross in order to know if two planets are afflicted or if they're getting along. If you have, let's just use the cardinal, Cancer, Capricorn, Libra, I'm going to do Aries. Okay, this is your cardinal cross. If they are like this,
Opposite?
they're oppositions.
Okay.
They do not get along. So if somebody has something in Cancer and somebody has something in Capricorn, that's going to be afflicted. Those two planets can cause an illness in that person, especially if it's on the 6-12 axis, which has to do with illness. I have a moon in Cancer, and I have a Mars in Capricorn. I got breast cancer, perfectly placed. The moon rules the breast. Mars is a planet of war. I am at war with my breast. I was at war with my feminine side. I had them chopped off. That's afflicted. If they're like this, a 90-degree angle, they're also afflicted. It's a square. Aries, Capricorn. I have Chiron in Aries and Mars in Capricorn. They're also afflicted, but it's a square. What is the difference between a square and an opposition? They're both afflicted. They don't get along. The way that the planets work, that's why I have this poster here of the archetypes. These are the planets. I call them the psychological organs, okay? So just like we have physical organs, we have psychological organs. Everybody has a liver, everybody has kidneys, everybody has ears and eyes and nose, everybody has a Pluto, everybody has a Sun, everybody has a Mars, everybody has a Venus. These are the psychological organs. Those organs fight or they get along. If they're fighting, they are telling you you're ugly, you're fat, you're a loser, you're never going to amount to anything. If they get along, they're going to make you think that you're the greatest things in sliced bread. The more people have of trines and sextiles, the easier their life is going to be. The more squares and oppositions you have, the harder your life is going to be. That's just math.
And it changes as the planets change.
No,
It's
that's
changed.
something different.
Oh.
We do have those that change as the planets change, but I'm talking about the core of the person's
Oh.
life. So I have so many squares and oppositions in my chart, but people that have a lot of squares and oppositions have more opportunity for growth. People that have trines and sextiles have an easier life, but they don't do as much with their life.
Exactly. They don't know how to fight.
They don't know how to fight. Things are just handed to them. It's easy. That it's not a lifetime. You have to understand that the belief in astrology is that we reincarnate many lives. Okay, that in this lifetime, this is your chart, and this is what your soul is trying to do in this lifetime. So in my next lifetime, I might pray for a few more trines and a few more sextiles, just to make it a little easier. In this one, I picked a hell of a lot of difficult aspects. These are called aspects. When two planets get along, they're called soft aspects. When two planets don't get along because they're on the same cross, if it's on the same cross, they don't get along.
Exactly.
Rule of thumb.
Okay. Like a Tauro.
So if your Saturn is in Capricorn, and we had something here in Libra, Venus and Libra, this person would have a square between Saturn and Venus. They would have difficulty in money, they would have difficulty in relationships. Whoever it is, I know that. Because Venus and Saturn do not get along, they impact money, they impact love. Because Venus has to do with money and has to do with love. And Saturn is a pain in the ass
What about
and destroys everything.
Capricorn and Taurus?
What planets?
Any planet?
Okay, Capricorn and Taurus are trine because they're both Earth. They're both Earth. Anytime you have something getting along, it's going to be in the same element. Or something called the same polarity. Polarity has to do with fire and water, earth and air. So you have two planets that are both earth, they're going to get along. Two planets that are fire and earth, they're not going to get along. Two planets that are fire and air, they're going to get along. Two planets that are water and fire, they're not going to get along. So if they get along, they're in the same element and same polarity. Polarity has to do with air and fire, or water and earth. If they're afflicted, they're going to be on the same cross. The minute something is on the same cross, you're fucked. It's something you came in this lifetime to learn. And you will struggle and you will get it over and over and over and over again until you learn it. So I've already gotten cancer twice. I have breast cancer in my death house. I could die of breast cancer. Maybe I learned the lesson. We'll see. Because then you add the house to it. So I told you that I had Cancer, Moon in Cancer, Capricorn, Mars and Capricorn. This is an opposition. Get along or not? No, because it's the same cross. I also have Aries, Chiron and Aries, and Mars and Capricorn. Get along? No, same
It's a
cross.
square.
It's a square. What is the difference between a square and an opposition?